Are you an HR leader or have another role in an organization and you're tired of seeing people suffer? Well, welcome to our secret society where we're going to talk about those problems and what you can do to help fix them. I'm Dr. Alessandria Polizzi. I am the CEO of Verdant Consulting.
I'm Duena Blomstrom. I'm a reluctant social entrepreneur. And together we talk about people, technology, and the workplace every week. Come join us. Welcome back to a new episode of our podcast, The Secret Society for Human Work Advocates and Human Debt Fighters, Preventers, and Deniers.
Deniers are going to have a very short listen.
Well, they can listen for a little bit. We welcome deniers. So if you're here because you think this human debt is BS, or it is because you didn't quite understand it existed in organizations, would be more than happy to hear from you, because it's that we're missing. We need to understand what is the holdup. I don't know how else to put it, but I think that's exactly where we picked this up, isn't it? What we were saying last.
Yeah, and I think also we see a lot of talk and conversation about these topics, not as much action. And I think it's worth sharing some of the things that are concerning, right, that we see. I mean, some things we see that are like
Encouraging.
Encouraging as well. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. We don't want this to be a bummer show. The bummer show.
Not only a bummer show. And if I get to play good cop, I've depressed you too much. So let's take a step back. And I'd be up in arms as well, though, I will admit, because we've worked quite, as you well said, there's more noise than ever. And there is more noise than ever. Take it from someone that landed in technology and data and whatever, when there was, and manufacturing, when there was no noise. So when I first started talking about these things, I did sound like I was completely whack and out there and there was no one else saying them. But these days, let me tell you, just by the 3 or 4 tags I get a day where people get up in arms on my behalf, that someone else is literally just freely never attributing, let's put it that way, if not just directly copy and pasting some of the things I was saying, there has never been more chatter. And I have a strange position about this. And if I don't know if this is interesting to our listeners necessarily, but just to amuse you, which is whenever my team sends some of this, or when people that we work with tag us, thankfully on LinkedIn, I'm so grateful they do. Shout out to the really smart people in Germany and Holland and so on that have been going up in arms when like people in the product industry come up with half-assed frameworks and stuff. Even people I had loads of respect for is a gentleman called John Cutler. Anyways, I'm rambling a bit as usual, but what I wanted to say is I'm not as up in arms about those moments, the moments of non-attribution, the noise, because believe it or not, we need the buzz. We need the noise terribly much. My life's work has been to create loads more noise about this because it was deafening silence. And if you think you hear too much about the fluff today and you're an HR professional that's sick and tired of all of these so-and-so's talk about self-care and soft skills and EQ and burnout, and if you're sick of that, let me tell you, you're new, because none of that existed until 5 minutes ago. This is all. Yeah. This is a genuine win that this new generation will get without even knowing they got it. And it's not even just in the workplace. I keep telling up my kids to be grateful that in my lifetime alone, they have attained a different standard in the workplace, in school, in acceptance of their queerness, you name it, right? They're not, and they're up in arms and they think the world is shit, but that's their job. But my job is to be the noise is good. What isn't necessarily good, though, and what I'm afraid of, is how do we make sure the cream gets to the top? How do we make sure that some is that an exec, this would be my dream state, that in a year or two from now, someone could come up to me and say, look, I was a CEO of a mid-level Fortune 5000 company, a bit stuck. I could see the bloody walls crumbling around me, and these people didn't quite like each other, and there was so much dread and disengaged, and we were doing all the things now by the book, but nothing was working very well. I knew there was something heavy. I had read about your wacky human dead crap. It didn't look like anything that I could do myself. And then one day you said, let's do these popcorn experiments. I listened. And then a few days later, I read an article and it looked like this beautiful drawing from McKinsey about what types of people exist. But I also read this research from the Dora report that wasn't quite as clear about what it meant to say, but it had the depth of all this thing we're trying to build together. And I knew that this is bollocks. And I knew
Mm-hmm.
that this is not, and it's value. And I came to on the fight, and you guys, the other human dead fighters with resources and help and knowledge and tools, have gotten me to where we are today. And I can almost promise you that CEO would be in Fortune 500 at the minimum by then. So
Yeah.
with a little bit of work put into it, and just learning to discern between what's bollocks and what isn't, and there's a lot of noise, I have to have faith in leadership that they'll go, that's noise, that's genuine knowledge and passion that's been built on years of practice. So I'm not worried about the noise. Are you?
Oh, so what I am, because I feel like the noise that, so there's a couple of things I see. Noise that reinforces antiquated ideas, and so it's more self-talk about how people just need to, and I'll quote someone from my session I did yesterday. Somebody said the suck it up mentality of leadership, that school of leadership. And so when we see things like those, that labeling of people that you just mentioned from McKinsey, when we see, Elon Musk talking about how psychological safety prevents innovation,
Is that
when
what you said?
we,
Oh, bless him. He's lost it completely.
I
I
know,
didn't see that.
I know, he's like, I
Oh.
think, I think we should just do everything the opposite of him. But so that's he's like bizarro leader, like just do the opposite. So that, I think people are looking to hide behind, I mean, or just ignoring data and just saying, I don't care what the data says, go ahead and return to office. That's that I find that concerning. But the one that's also I find concerning is the Googleization or AIification of psychological safety as a buzzword that like everybody now has become an expert on. I was speaking to some of the National Safety Council's annual convention, which it's huge. Like we have a huge event. It's a big event. They have what 6,000 people here, I think, and I heard about this one of the organizations that's kind of affiliated in the space. They're creating a psychological health and safety certification. The person who they have writing it, no experience in this area, does not know, is just Googling their way through it. So now this is going to be potentially the standard. Just find that concerning because it's just people are just throwing out garbage. And here's the thing, Duena, just really quick. So with that, if I go with that, especially the bigger brands that kind of go with that, and it doesn't work, I don't throw away the group that gave it to me. I throw away the concept, right? So, right, it's just like it's anyway. So those are some things that kind of keep me up at night.
No, I am not claiming, and I'm not going to lie to anyone. No, I lie. If anyone's new here, I'm always I have this sunny disposition. I never complain about
You
anything.
are
And
so,
if anyone's new, don't listen to what they're trying to tell you.
why?
That's who I
Why
am.
must you turn this
So
podcast into a
this,
house of lies?
so I'll make this a special occasion and just do something completely opposite and out of character, and say that yes, there is a lot of bollocks and shit out there, but if we're worried for the type of exec that will buy that will get that,
Yeah,
they're not in the
that's not our group.
5,000.
You're
They're
right.
not in
That's
the
not our group.
5,000. They're not listening to the same.
Right.
I think who we're talking to are people who are in the 5,000, but they
The
just don't feel they have the balls or the tools or the ability or the
the
space
tools. That's what
or
it is.
the interest or the passion. I said this all along. I think that's where it is. It's not that they don't know. I think when we come out of this generalized burnout we're in, this team burnouts we're in, which is a different type of
Mm-hmm.
burnout, by the way, I've been writing about lately than you end
Individual.
up
Yeah.
yes, than individual burnout. And I think it's a really important thing that we start paying attention to. By the way, you and I should chat about that specifically
Yeah.
for an
Yeah.
episode,
Absolutely.
because if you look at the idea of burnout combined, then it's at that combined level you have to fix it. You cannot fix it with some knowledge individually, and you cannot fix it with some norms that are not of the group that got burned out together.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
anyways,
Yep.
that's a different conversation,
But you're right. Our audience are the secret society for human work fighters, right? So, for those of us who already get it, so this is for the third group, right? We get
yeah,
it, and there is data that is and resources and tools that are readily available. I actually part of my presentation yesterday was about how to make the business case for investing in mental health
no,
or
excellent,
psychological health and safety.
excellent. And the way you make
And
this
so,
is, it's you need to show that it works, and it's so easy to
yes,
show that it works. It's what we're
right.
working on, and we haven't yet announced it, but here's a teaser. They are practically these small popcorn experiments that will show your leadership that, oh yeah, if I invest 20, 30, 10K, whatever it is, $5, I don't care, it's not about the numbers. If I invest X amount of money, a small modicum amount of money, I see X amount of result from my people
Mm-hmm.
when they have done this specific bit of human work. And
Yep.
that's what the experiment shows them. And if they will ignore an experiment and another experiment, at the very minimum, you're left with 3 or 4 better teams. Every time we've done a
Yep.
PhD with people not tech, and it didn't work out because the human debt in the organization had some HR director be too afraid to lose their job. Every time we did that, we still left 5 or 6 teams with that had a better start. We left a couple of developers in tears as well, if I'm honest, 1 or 2. But you know what I mean? It's just a question of
Yeah.
if all the effect you have is that this popcorn change leaves you with a little bit of a better upwards trajectory, then that's fine.
So hey, let's talk about these popcorn. I love this concept. I really do. I think you're so good at creating these. I called it earlier emotional word pictures. These ways of thinking, speaking at things that create a vision in my mind. So, what are some examples in your mind
Okay,
of popcorn?
Here's one. Say that someone gives us 50K. You and I go in there for 2 days to tell them what this is about in several ways that we think are the best way to move this message. I don't really know what kind of company they are. And then we put these people in a virtual room and they all do a team action. And then
Mm.
we measure them before with the software and we measure them after with the software. And maybe they do
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3. And the 2 or 3 of them are aimed at improving specifically your openness or specifically your resilience. And if those went up after 3 of them, voila! I have a fucking
Yep.
shit that works and fixes my crap.
Yep. Yep. Let me add one.
We have the tool for it. Other people can
Yes.
talk about it. We have the tool for it.
Absolutely. Wow. One of the things I want to also talk about to support those human debt fighters, and which is what we wanted to do with the Secret Society, is talk about some of the things that are happening. There's a lot being published right now, both good and bad. But here's some good news, at least for us in the U.S., is that there's 30 plus states that have legislature in process that would make it illegal to have a toxic workplace, which would enable, and it was, most of them specifically address bullying. But bullying is one of the biggest problems that we have from a psychological health and safety perspective. Is it the only thing? No, but it's a start, and so that's pretty exciting for us here. The other thing is that if you have a CEO who's clueless about this, you're not alone. According to Deloitte, 89% of the C-suite thinks that they're really doing well around this, but only 41% of employees do. And yeah, there's a big disconnect going on. And you know what's interesting is they had a quote in here. I'm gonna read this. 78% of the C-suite say the leadership should change if their company can't maintain an acceptable level of workforce well-being.
They should, yeah. Everyone's agreeing there should be change. Just no one wants to do it.
No one wants to do it.
No.
But yeah, I thought that those, especially the disconnect between the C-suite and
yeah, you're right. There is such a gap between what people and consider the following. Why would you lie in a survey?
yes,
if you're the exec that said that, you knew you're lying, so you were impression managing. And let me tell you why people are impression managing in a survey: for fear of being found out.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not sure that the survey is anonymous and you're not sure that it's unattributable, that's when you impression manage. That's when you lie. But
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to tell me that those are the stats, right? That if you take 10 managers, 9 of them are clueless and just don't get it. That's not true.
Yeah.
But they
No.
say that because they believe that the enterprise is going to be able to trace it back to them if they tell the truth.
Mm.
The difference, the disconnect there is, as soon as you become a manager, you also become fearful of this bloody human debt you see everywhere, and you are
That's right.
convinced it's going to come to bite you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm developing this new theory to myself that has to do, it stems from technical teams, but I think it applies to every
Mm-hmm.
place, where I think there's so much impression management that's necessary as a survival skill, that new managers that have been thrown into positions that they had no training or ability or interest in experience. There's the imposter syndrome they experience, the cognitive load of being dissonant between this is what I know and this is what I see, this is what
And
I know
loneliness. The
through.
loneliness.
Right, and how lonely it gets, and how that's why we see those much higher effects of genuine burnout. Not people who have reported burnout, people who have offed themselves because of burnout, people who are in medical care because of burnout. So the very last levels we see of it. So I want us to think of the fact that there a lot of this cognitive dissonance we are building in people, a lot of this human debt that we have seen at every level of this organization. Some of it is just theoretical and let's change bigger cultures, let's be better performing, fine. We know about that, right? And that's the one we like to talk about because we don't like this moral stance. But there is an absolute element of we should first look at the hygiene of the workplace. The bones of it so riddled with this human debt cancer that when we send people in this machinery, we don't even know where we F them up. And I think we F
Yeah.
them up when we make them managers with no EQ ability, and when we
Yep.
make them people leaders with no attachment to the purpose of the company, and when we make them live in a company that has no idea of what the 5 important things are that Aristotle has found. When we do that to people, we F them up.
Yep.
In a way that then
Absolutely.
becomes hard to shake out of them, because these people will do well enough to go up the ladder of the organization, and they probably will play the corporate game well eventually, but they will be stuck somewhere where they're not their true, free, happy, creative, low level self that gets to not manage people, and they're not at the very top, and they're right in the middle, stuck going, this is where I am, this is who we're talking to. We know you've been through that. Don't let other generations go through that by not giving them the easier tools. These days, convincing management to go themselves to an EQ course is nothing. Well, try that 15 or 20 years ago. They would have
Yes. Right.
prepped you, they would have sent you a head horse
Yeah.
in the mail. They don't need
Yeah.
any of that. You're in a much better position to make change, and it's a pity not to do so.
No. And one of the people who will benefit the most is you.
It's you.
Right. Right. When you can understand more about how to human, that includes and should actually start with you understanding yourself and what your needs are and how to take care of those in a way that's healthy for you and for everyone else in the workplace. One of the big problems we have is we kind of have this abused uh, abused partner syndrome, I'm going to call it, of like, well, if we somehow blame ourselves for the abuse that happens at
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
as if and because we're told it, right?
Yeah.
So we buy it. Of if I was just smarter, more prepared, had better business acumen, more organized. My favorite one, time management. You know, workload. I saw a research that showed that workload has increased by 50% for managers in the last few years.
And
Okay,
I would like you to
that's not a time management issue.
And I would also like you to consider that doesn't even start to count the actual work. Whatever workload they are counting is guaranteed to not be the human work they should be
No,
doing,
it's
because we
not.
don't measure that in any
Absolutely.
enterprise.
Right. We just dismiss that. Yeah,
So
we just
their
dismiss
work
that.
hasn't increased by 50%. It increased by 300%, but it's only the 50% that's visible in admin, whereas they need to do all the other shit that's a lot more complicated with.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We have
Yeah.
sent our people up the creek with
Yeah.
zero EQ paddles, zero, this is how you manage a team paddles. And we have a good chance to rectify this quickly in the wake of the pandemic when we have to re-team anyways. But if we are
Yes.
re-teaming idiotically around a location, or we are re-teaming idiotically around the process we haven't questioned, we are not going to get anywhere.
No. No. And here's what's going to happen is that this next generation is going to enter the workforce with a trauma informed brain because of how what happened during their formative years, and zero tolerance.
And
I
an
mean,
increased sense of justice and the demand for value immediately. And just you
absolutely,
will be
absolutely.
retired within a month at this rate.
Yes. I mean, look, I talk to a lot of HR professionals and people in recruiting, and that people aren't asking as much about career growth and career opportunity. They're talking about how healthy will I be working here? Tell
Yeah.
me about
What are
your,
yeah?
yeah, I need to be
What are
aligned to the values.
Do they care about whether I take care of myself? Do they go out a lot? Are they friendly? I'm noticing more and more of these smarter and smarter professionals are asking about the actual team they're going to, and
Yes.
I think this is actually, unfortunately, well, there's many things that are going to crystallize. And part of these, what I truly believe in, that I don't know if we were talking about earlier, I didn't know if you want to repeat that or not about what you're writing. I don't know if that's public or not.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm gonna need you to say it again. But part of this, what I believe in currently, is the fact that I think what we know of the size of teams is wrong. I think they need to be smaller. I also think that what we are attempting with cross-functional teams, which is why we insisted teams shouldn't be stable; they can be as dynamic
More
as we
nimble.
like, is not necessary in the correct work formula of agility and of good enterprise. So I'm starting to lean, and I'm saying a heresy here, towards they probably have to be smaller than we thought, and they probably have to be a lot more stable than we thought for them to be
Mm,
super high performing. If you
hmm.
don't need it, but maybe this is the key, you might not need a high performance team. And that's something for smart CEOs to decide. Where do I need a high performance team? Where do I need workhorses that will not want as much autonomy or as much? Because if you want a high performance team, you probably can only have a 4 or 5 elite team that, I don't know how many exactly, a smaller group that are learning those passes. Like a high performance sports team, they need to learn those interactions. And so I think it's important to start redefining in terms of what's common work, what's solo work, what's creative work, what's habitual work, what's admin, what needs some spark, what maybe I can give my people, I don't know, better better states of flow, whatever it is that they need. In however, whatever you're doing, do it from a place of let's redo the thing, because it's at the we are where we can think of all this from new. Maybe we need some
Hmm.
teams to be performing, some not to be, some teams to be. Let's think in the new lens of neurodivergence. We need some people to be generalists and some people to be specialists, and we need to understand both, recognize both, and value both. And we haven't done that. So much is wrong in the setup of the workplace today that if we all went home and had to write down what we're doing and how many of us would be really necessary for real if you were to put it down like in a Sims environment, maybe a third are necessary and are useful if they were to be doing their best work. Everyone else, I think, is a bit of surplus. And until we are smart enough to redefine that everywhere in the commercial and administrative world, we're going to have issues. But meanwhile, let's just deal with how do we keep the teams we have before the new generation kicks us out and before AI has won because we haven't pulled our thumbs to learn about our feelings. Let's just deal with our people. This is a small problem. If you think in a longer lens, fixing today the post pandemic return to work without inducing more human death should be an easy one. And
Yeah.
many people are fucking it up as we speak.
Yep, absolutely. Because we've loosened up the ability to have these conversations, right? And we keep wanting to tighten it back down. You mentioned, a project that I started kind of accidentally. I started creating a workbook for other for our secret society, human people focus on human work at work and human debt fighters, that would give them how to get started as a workbook. And then I just kept writing and writing. So now it's become an actual like long book,
Like,
but the workbook
look
part
at
is
it.
still,
See how
uh,
much you want to give everyone everything. Let's look at it first. But
yeah,
the
exactly.
instinct is
But
to give everything.
but I have, but I, so anyway, it's become more involved. But the core of it, how I started it was if I was, or in talking to all the people who listen to my work, who read my newsletter, etc., how can I help them do this work? And so the core of it actually takes 10 common business objectives and connects them to how, based on data, the psychological health and safety of your team gets you to that goal, right?
Excellent.
Right. So it goes through that. It also goes through, for 2024, what are identified right now. And granted, we're really bad at fortune telling in general, but what are like the trends for 2024, and how does having a psychologically healthy and safe team help accomplish that? So I think the more we can start having these conversations in the context of the business we're in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
being realistic about what is our culture, how big is our human debt, what is the appetite, kind of where are we starting. So one of the other things I created was a mental health maturity model, so that you can see where where are we, and what should I expect as far as the level of conversation we can have. So anyway, those are some tools that are in the works. I love our popcorn, your popcorn experiments. I
So as
think
what we need
that's
to do is we're going to connect those two things for you guys and put them on the pod's page somehow, so that you get access to these workbooks. As usual, I think I've been very transparent, but we're happy to say this again. Our model is loads of stuff for free, and then some stuff will have to cost some money. Unfortunately, we haven't even worked out what that is, and the things we've been charging the industry have been dismal over the years, so we can't keep doing that. I don't think anyone should have done that. I think we all kind of fooled ourselves into this. If you want to be, if you have a mission, you can't always also make a buck for it. It's kind of what we've been sold over the last 20 years, I would say, in the workplace more than anywhere else. So I think I see this trend more there and more globally than other people, because I got to live in the States and elsewhere in Europe, many other places, and then landed in England. So I can see different cultures, and I got to see them, to my luck, through a slice of time that was exactly digital adoption and exactly beginnings of technology. So I got really lucky to be in the right place at the right time, I think. Um, but I'm more so if you're going to be like winning at who saw the universe the best. But if you're going to be winning at who has the biggest swimming pool, I lost already. So this is the problem, right? We have very different we
that's
have very different ways of formulating this. So anyhow, maybe not even go there, because now it's dramatically down that path. But what we're saying is, we're saying many things, but this human debt that you feel is potentially different per culture. Not, I'm not sold it's very different per culture, but maybe it is. It doesn't matter. There's human debt advocates that you can talk to, and you can see in our tech-led culture pods that are from everywhere. You're not going to find people that we don't know, we can't hook you up with. Second biggest problem is the what anything costs. 90% of the things we give away are all you need to get started on an amazing strategy. What you don't have, and you're not going to be able to have, is the time to put them all together. So reach out to one of us, try and see if any of us human debt fighters can humanize with you somehow. It doesn't have to be in person, but having someone online that you can rely on, that is kind of stitching these together for you as just tools, might be useful. Equally, if you don't need anyone, just look at the bloody Aristotle to-dos and take them from there. What do I need to do? I need to get dependable. What do I need to do? I need to get more purpose. What do I need to do? I need to get more psychological safety. Don't ask us. Go ask Google what needs happening. There are models of what works out there that are extremely understandable, simple, and show results. Like we said, we're going to try and connect these two things. What Alessandria wrote and our popcorn experiments are going to be kind of available in one. but again, don't have to do it alone. And I don't know that you can do it alone. So a lot
No,
of
I don't. I think that's really the key. You don't have to do it alone. You shouldn't do it alone. The last thing you need to do is burn yourself out taking care of other people, which is what we tend to do. Um, and
what you're talking
yeah.
about.
Are you feeling attacked?
No, not me. Yeah. No, I mean, we all know what we know, right? Anyone listening to this understands why we get up in arms and our blood pressure goes up. But we can see you and we know that you've been pushing hard. And you know what? I think unfortunately, what human dead fighters have in common at this point is a hell lot of resilience because we've been fighting a lot, and we've been overcoming burnout after burnout. And I think that alone should be very valuable. We all have, I'm sure, a set of practices that are self care related and self grown up professional related. I wish we all had those and it was here's something to put mandatory in your workbook policies, dear HR professionals. If you don't have a self care routine, don't show up for work. Uh, Anyhow, look, we all know there are common sense, simple things we could do.
I know. I know.
So it's
We
tough.
don't do it. Look, I've spent a lot of time the last few weeks doing courses on leadership burnout. I've done it for multiple groups, and it's this odd conundrum of I'm sacrificing myself for the team, which means I'm burning out, and yet all the data shows that when I do that, it's detrimental to the team.
Good team.
So I've convinced myself that what I'm doing is the right thing, but what I'm doing is really the wrong thing. And
Yeah.
intellectually, I know it, but
Cognitive
emotionally,
dissonance. Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. I think that's
That
where we come in. I
that's
don't know what else to do, and
that
we have
that's
answers.
what you're feeling as heavy and as dread and as fuck my life, I better change jobs and make a change. That's the human that you're feeling, that heaviness of what now, right? And we can come in, and I know you've heard this. I mean, we're not just trying to sell ourselves, right? But we are a very expensive alternative to a therapist, a self coach, and a PT trainer. But you know what? It's not just for you. You can get this in one package. If you get one of us, handful of people on earth, but if you get one of these people in, I can guarantee that they can make more change with enough levers in hand than 10 years of programs. So it's just a question of
Hmm.
and it's always been the case, right? In technology in particular, we're used to that we have to have this maverick team come in and a squad team to save whatever. Why we
Yes.
get ourselves into this situation that we need a squad team that needs to save us, I don't know. But here we are, and this time we genuinely have a crisis situation. This human dead shit is all encompassing. It's coming to get everyone in various ways. And I know we're burnt out and we're in no mood, but we got to double down, find other human dead fighters, and just get it out of the workplace now once and for all, because this window is closing on us in the next year or two, I think.
Mm.
And on
Okay.
note,
On that note,
on that happy note, let's hope I'm wrong as usual. And we will see you next week.
bye.